Hey, what's up? Andrew Kramer here, and welcome to another exciting experiment. Now, recently we did a tutorial called Animating a Still, where we took a still image and tried to make it look like it was actual video. We added some blur and some lens grime, and we added some natural camera movement. And the way we added the camera movement was we took a real plate from actual film, or video that is, and we tracked it. So we did some motion tracking. We tracked the rotation and the position, and then we took that information and we applied it to our actual camera for our scene. So it basically looked like the camera was moving in a natural way. Now, the benefit of this technique is that instead of using a wiggle or mathematical expression to get random movement, we're actually using real film that has a lot of natural movement that we wouldn't otherwise see with a wiggle expression. So my thought was, I wonder if we can take that a step further and see if we can extract a focus pull from an actual video plate and apply that to the camera focus pull or to a blur, so we get kind of a natural rack focus. Now, some people might be thinking, what a useless experiment, because you could probably just keyframe it and make it look good. And that's probably true. However, I did realize that there are some natural and interesting movements in the way that an actual rack focus occurs. But more importantly, this is not the first time anyone has done a useless experiment. In fact, I did a little research, and apparently in the 60s, they thought it would be interesting to study elephants on acid. Okay. Terror in the Skies, another 1960s experiment where they made pilots fill out insurance forms after telling them that the airplane was going to crash, even though it was just an exercise. Plus tickling and several other ones. Just look for useless experiments and you'll probably find a lot of very interesting things. So with that said, let's move on. So the first thing I did was I filmed a square, a black square on a white wall, and it has some, interesting pulls in it. So we're going to take this, drop it into a new comp. Now, this video is nice, but we have to extract the data so that we can actually apply it to an out-of-focus plugin or to our camera's depth of field. So we need to get some numbers out of this video. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set it to be black and white. So we'll choose Effect, Color Correction, Tint, and then we'll make it black and white. Then we're going to add a levels adjustment. And don't ask how this got figured out because it's embarrassing. But we're basically going to crush it till this turns white and maybe bring this over so that our black is nice and dark. So something like that. And then we're going to duplicate our footage. So we'll choose Edit, Duplicate. And then we're going to do Channel, Invert. Very nice. And we're going to take this mode and we're going to set it to difference. So now if we look at the video, we have kind of an interesting effect happening here. And I tried it a bunch of different ways, and this seemed to be the best way to get a good numeric value out of this technique. So the other thing we have to do is create an adjustment layer. And we're going to add a levels adjustment. And here we're going to crush it. We'll go down here to a point where it's black, and I'll just slide this over a bit. We might even add a slight blur, because see how it gets a bit noisy? So we'll choose Effect, Blur, Fast Blur. We'll put it before the levels, maybe about 5 pixel blur. And I think that looks pretty good. So we could crush this maybe a little bit more so we have a nice sharp edge. But I think this will work. Now I'm going to take our 2 layers below here, and I'm going to hit W, and I'm going to rotate it so that it's just straight. Okay, great. Now I'm going to create a white solid. And then we're going to take the mask tool here, and we're just going to draw a little strip across the middle. And I'm having crazy deja vu right now, so I don't know why. And we're going to set the mask to subtract. And then we want to move the mask down so that little hole in the middle shows through. So we're going to about right here. Might even just scale this down a bit more. There we go. So now we have this simple little line. So once we have this is going to give us what we need to track our shot. So right here, see it gets really small? I want to make sure that there's enough there to track. So we'll bring the blur down and we slide that over. Okay, so then we're going to take all the layers, hold down Shift, select them, and choose Layer Precompose. And then we'll move it all over, and then we're going to track this. So we're going to click Track Motion, go Window, bring up the tracker controls, Track Motion, zoom in here, click on the corner, bring it over here, size it down, and then we'll just track forward. So now we're getting some math data for this rack focus. So anybody who's following along hopefully can see the idea here is to take this data and apply it to an out of focus plugin. But just to be complete, we'll keep going. It's not lunchtime yet anyway, so I don't mind. Okay, now let's create a null object. So I'll come down here, null object. In the track information, we'll edit the target and we'll select the null. And we're going to apply it. And we're actually just going to apply the X data. That's the left and right data. We'll hit OK. And now we have a null object that has some keyframes. So then we'll take this null object, we'll call it depth of field, and we'll copy the layer. So we'll choose Edit, Copy. And we'll come over here to our comp, and we'll start over here. I'm going to create a new adjustment layer. And then we'll add a box blur. We could use a lens blur or whatever kind of blur you want. We'll repeat the edge pixels, and then we'll paste the layer we just copied. So this is our depth of field layer. And this is going to be our rack focus. So then we'll bring up that information. We'll hit U. And if we look at it, we can click on it and bring up the track information here. We can actually see the keyframes. Now, one thing we might want to do is right click and choose Separate Dimensions so that we can just look at the X. And if we go to where there's no focus, you can see the number value, and it goes all the way up to 524. And even this is an interesting experiment. If we look at the focus, and during the out of focus here, you can see it actually kind of comes down, and it's very uneven and very natural looking. So that's hopefully what we're looking to apply to our own digital rack focus, so it doesn't look like a perfect keyframe. So we'll go ahead and close that. We'll go to our rack focus here. We'll hit E, we'll bring up our box blur, and then we'll alt click on the blur radius. And then we'll pick whip the X position, because we want to use that as the rack focus amount. So when we hit OK, only problem is the value at the lowest level is 450. So that's a bit high for a blur plugin. So we'll simply go in here and we'll type minus 455. And so then the rack focus will only turn on when the value goes over 455. So that's kind of what we want. Now if we want to make this more intense or less intense, we can stick it in some parentheses here and then multiply by whatever. We could do 0.5 and then it will be half as much blur, or you could do turn it up, multiply times 2 and we'll have twice as much blur. 0.75 maybe for now, or 0.75. There we go. And you can also use like a linear expression, but this is like a very simple way to understand it, I think. Let's go and take a quick look. Okay, so like I said, probably not the most exciting experiment, but it is pretty interesting to take a video of a rack focus and turn it into actual keyframes that we can use to drive an animation. So I think there's plenty of applications for this. I mean, what if you filmed, a light flickering or something else, and somehow take that and be able to create an organic effect where you apply that to something in After Effects. So just the idea of blending together the real things in the world with the digital things, and who knows what's going to happen. I mean, this was the 1960s. I mean, just imagine the kind of drugs they have today. All right, guys, I'm Andrew Kramer. This is VideoCopilot.net. Stay off drugs and enjoy the rest of your week.